Hi, everyone. I am happy to be here. It is Tuesday, January 20th. And this particular live is set up to be open to the public, but only subscribers can comment. So, thank you again for being here. The topic today is Minneapolis. I'm just going to do one thing because I'm going to see if I can get a moderator. Just since this is, I think I said it like, now I'm like, I didn't double check. I meant to double check, but this is meant to be open to the public. Anyone can participate and be here. And thank you for being here. But if you'd like to comment, you just have to be a subscriber, which is a pretty low bar. I have to click the button and then you can make a comment. So thank you to everyone who is here and a subscriber and also, those of you who are members, I appreciate your support today. One of the reasons I wanted to set this up as a separate conversation, okay. All right, hang on. I'm just going to see if, because I don't know. I don't know if I need a moderator today, but now I've got one. Okay. Today's conversation is about Minneapolis. And so I do hope, I want this to include anyone from any location for that matter, and also any political background. This is not intended to be a political conversation. Just by the nature of what it is, it's going to feel political to some people. It's so interesting to me that to us in Minnesota, obviously I'm not going to try to speak for everybody, but we've always been a deep blue state. We have never, we didn't even vote for Reagan. We did vote for Mondale and we didn't vote for Reagan. So it's a very funny electoral map. The Mondale map is everyone except Minnesota. So yeah. So anyway, that's that. Thank you, Kat, for offering to be a mod. I'm hopeful that we won't, it won't matter, because again, we're just, chatting about what it's been like for me to be in Minneapolis during this period of time. And we don't have to only talk about this. I just scheduled this particular live because, for one thing, I want to get a little bit more, I want to look for these opportunities to get live on YouTube. I do my regular ones for the membership community, but I want to look for opportunities to meet some new people on YouTube and also reach people who it's just not a fit right now to become a member. But those of you who are kind of on the fence, or you've never joined the membership for anybody else, and it's because I haven't either, not on YouTube anyway. I've definitely had paid memberships on different platforms, but the whole reason I set up the paid membership on YouTube in the first place is to give us an opportunity to have real deep conversations in a protected space. So you could ask maybe vulnerable questions. I could go deeper than my Pantheon usually prefers me to go when I'm open to the public on TikTok, especially. So we inside the membership, we lovingly refer to the YouTube conversations as adult swim, as opposed to, kiddie pool over on TikTok. So for those of you who are just finding me for the first time, I welcome you here. If you're finding me because you've seen my public stuff and you've just never seen me kind of in this more casual live, thank you for being here. Now, again, back to the topic of the hour. And I will be about an hour. Inside the membership, I go about 90 minutes typically, but today I'm for sure going to close at the top of the hour. And then, of course, members, you can look forward to seeing me again on Thursday and then on Saturday. Now, as a way of intro into Minnesota, and I'm happy to come to your questions. Maybe your questions are about Minnesota. Maybe your questions are maybe a little political in nature. And again, I welcome any type of question as long as you are respectful. Again, you have to be a subscriber to make a comment, but all you have to do is click the button, make a comment. But then once you do that, you have to be respectful. And again, I have no intention of making this a political conversation because, as I was starting to say, like Minnesota is deep blue. Like for us, this isn't political. For us, this is, and it should be this way for you, is like I said in last night's video, this is state versus federal. We have never been here before, at least in modern history. Now, I also want to say in the beginning, and I want to say hi to you too. So okay, let me do that. Let me say hi to those of you who found me in person, and you're here to support the community. Let me say hi to you, and then I'm gonna get back to what I was starting to say. Hi, Allie. Hi, Malika. Hi, Stephanie. Heather is here. Hello, Heather. Lane July, Ari, Allie, did I say Allie already? Sorry. Kayana, Che, hi. Kat, Soul Riser, Dale. Hi, Dale. Dale's here. Steve's here. Hi, Steve in California. Robin, Nancy, Janet, Angie's here. Mary and Ronnie. Hi, Ronnie. Hi, Laura. Hi, Diane. Hi, Brienne. Kimberly. Now they're coming real fast. Tammy's here. Hi, Tammy. Tisa. Hi. Is it Rochelle? Nicole. Mary Hanson. Did I say you? Yeah. I'm sorry. Kelly. All right. If I missed you, I'm sorry, and thank you for being here. And if you're catching the replay, again, I want to say hi to you members on the replay and you new friends. Now, I'm going to give you a little brief intro about me and what I've been doing in Minneapolis, and then I have something to read to you, which is really fun. First, I don't want to pretend to be anything other than I have not personally attended protests or I've not done neighborhood watches. That's what a lot of people are doing. More in terms of like numbers of people, most people are participating in the form of a neighborhood watch, like literally their own neighborhoods, where at this point, we all know what vehicles look like and what the traffic behavior looks like. They don't obey traffic laws, things like that. So a lot of people are sitting in their own, like sitting in their own parked car to stay warm, but sitting like parked out front and just watching their own street. And then if they see something, then they report. So there's a lot of grassroots communication happening to protect neighbors. And then of course there's protests and all that stuff too. I've done none of the above. So I don't want to act like, oh, I've been out there doing all this stuff. Instead, what I've been doing is energy work where I can tap into different aspects of what is to be considered. There are we don't know how many. I was gonna say thousands. I'm hearing my pantheon say low thousands. In the low thousands of humans in cages right now. We assume, or it's being assumed, I don't know. I'm not like in the troops working on this, but it's assumed that they're in one primary building. it's a federal building in the Twin Cities, and it's kind of near the airport. And so that's where the primary protests are happening. And that's where we assume that most of the people are being held. W- uh, in addition to not letting this devolve into a political conversation, I'm also going to try to not say a whole lot of disturbing details, but I want to give you a couple examples, just so you know kind of the truth of how it feels, like what's happening, um, that feels like trauma. Nothing compared to the trauma of the people going through this, but I want you to understand that from an energetic perspective, there's ripples of trauma, because obviously the epicenter of the trauma is the human being, the low thousands of human beings who are probably still in Minnesota, but even that we don't know. They've been trying to ship them out too, because they know that, like, as long as they stay in the state, there's a chance that they're going to get, correctly saved, and that's not appealing to the powers that be. So there's a lot of question marks, in terms of how many people have been um, kidnapped, and where are they right now. And the other thing that you should know is that these people are probably not here illegally. Uh, um, it's unknown because they can't be reached. But many of these people are either actual American citizens, but they just were unlucky to look un-American, sound un-American, and not have their papers on them. There's some number of people who fall into that category. Maybe they don't speak English very well, and whatever, but they're just stuck. So there's people like that. There's also people who have been beat up so severely that, and I'm trying to not use a lot of very specific words, because I don't know if I'm going to get penalized on the platform, but what this came out overnight, that what is happening now is that the Minnesota lawmakers are getting closer to getting access to this federal building. That's one thing they're working on, and so that they can see the conditions and see how many people and see if they're healthy and if they're being fed and things like that. Because even that, who knows? Who knows? There was something they wanted to me say. Oh, so what came out overnight, in the pulse, and then was confirmed by my pantheon, is that ICE is scrambling now. They've got this, some number of people in this federal building. They're trying to ship as many as they can out of state. Like, they're just trying to disappear them. So that's an effort. But then there's this body of people who, they figured out, they like, it makes them look bad. Like either, yeah, oh, whoops, all these people are actually citizens, or another problem that they're trying to cover up right now is many of them were beat up so badly that they need, like, they're way overdue for hospitalization, but they're in this federal building and they're stuck because they can't, like, call an ambulance. Like, it's just they're not in the headspace where they're going to protect um this human being who they believe is subhuman to begin with. They're literally in cages and all this stuff. And so instead, what they're doing, and this is just going to be one of maybe only a couple of, like, super graphic-ish details, is that overnight they found, the last I heard, there was 3 confirmed and then 5 more that were in the process of being confirmed, people that were found dumped in parks overnight. And it is so frigid cold here that if they weren't found quickly, they probably died. I don't know. I don't even know that. Like this, it's like not being talked about yet. It's sort of like that's one of this an example of like the sort of the under the radar yet, but it might hit the news. So you might hear stories about um, detainees being found days later um, in terrible physical condition, just dropped off in a park. I think there's one more. Oh, yeah. So one more thing that they wanted me to share, and then I'll see if there's some questions that you want me to dive into. Because again, I wanted to mark this as a separate conversation so that in our regular live sessions, we won't be talking as much. I mean, I'm not committing to like never mentioning Minneapolis, but it's a very specific topic. So I wanted you to know that that is the topic for today. And the reason I'm talking about it is because I am physically located in Minneapolis. I'm in South Minneapolis. My address is Minneapolis. Now, the agents are all over the state. In fact, I kind of feel bad for the small towns now because the agents got so like stymied in the Twin Cities where we had, dense population that now they're like spreading out and going to the outskirts, the smaller, I mean, not even necessarily small towns. There's plenty of small towns in Minnesota, but there's like medium-sized metro areas that are definitely, I think some of you from those smaller areas can maybe chime in the chat, but I'm like, oh, like you don't have as much population to back you up out there. So I do think that there's efforts to get people from all from the Twin Cities to go support you in those areas. But this is what everyone needs to understand about the situation is that it is not about immigration. It is not about fraud. And it is not about whether or not the protesters are protesting correctly. It's not about like, oh, they're being violent or not, or like no, they're not. They're peaceful. No, they're not. No. And it's not about whether or not Minnesota has an issue with a particular population of immigrants. That's not what we're talking about. And that's not that's just a total narrative, fictional narrative of why the agents were sent here in the first place. We do not have an immigration problem in Minnesota. We don't. As I said this last week, we have a long history as a state of, first of all, welcoming anyone who will come way up here in the frigid north. But also, we have a long history of reaching out to other countries and saying, we see you struggling. We want you to help. We want to help you come here, and we're gonna create programs for you so you can get on your feet. Somalia is in the spotlight right now. Our Somalian community, our Somali community. But they're just the newest one. The community that is sort of near and dear to my heart in the Twin Cities is the Hmong community. And the reason that I say that is because when I was a kid going to the Minneapolis public schools for elementary school, I had classmates that just showed up one day. I mean, not all on the same day. A couple they just trickled in, and they would just like all of a sudden be like, there's a new student in my class. And first of all, these students, like, they didn't know how old they were. They didn't like have any records of anything. They placed them in classes according to size. Like, oh, you look about second grade. Okay. And so, and they were all from the Hmong community from Laos. And so when I was a kid, I like learned how to play on the playground with a brand new friend that didn't speak English yet, but it was about my size. Actually, probably a little bit bigger than me. I was always small for my age, but so and then now those kids who like didn't speak a word of English when they were just like plopped into a class, Minneapolis classroom. Now these are like business owners and professionals, and it's awesome. I love it. And they have kids now, and so there's a really rich multi-generation community of Hmong Minnesotans. We have the largest number of any US city. Or actually, I think on that front, it's the largest number outside of Laos. Um, and then I think we now have more Somali Americans than any other city. So, and that's what we're proud of. Um, I did a little research. Uh, I just used ChatGPT, and I'm just like, tell me more about Minnesota history. Because obviously George Floyd, like this is not the first time we're on the world stage in recent history. But I went to ChatGPT this morning, and I'm like, tell me, like, just give me the cliff notes of Minnesota's history. And so I learned some interesting things. Like, for example, we were the very first state to send volunteer troops to the Civil War. And there's all kinds of things like that. Now, of course, there's also pieces of Minnesota's history that's not so great. We've had our experiences of um, questionable relations with our native communities. Now, we're quite, I'd like to believe anyway, that we're quite rich in history and collaboration and things like that. But there's moments, I just like I was saying, I don't want you to think I'm out there at the protest. I also don't want you to think that I'm trying to say Minnesota is perfect and we have nothing to be ashamed of in our entire history. But it was just interesting to me. I just went through that exercise of learning about my own state. Um, so what I wanted to share with you that, and then I'm going to go to your questions, is so I was asking ChatGPT, like, tell me about this, tell me about that, about Minnesota. And then I said, just for fun, I said, now pretend, um, uh, actually, I'm looking at ChatGPT right now. So what my prompt was, um, if Minnesota were a person, what would she say right now? And this was my ChatGPT's response. So let me just read this to you. You picked the wrong state. Minnesota doesn't panic, she plans. She doesn't shout, she organizes. She volunteers first when the union called, welcomed refugees and built neighborhoods with them, and turned winter into a competitive advantage. If you thought pressure, intimidation, or January weather would make people here fold, you brought a water gun to a snowball fight. I love that. This isn't anger, it's focus. And in Minnesota, focus usually is followed by coordination, persistence, and a very polite kind of victory. I don't know. That just cracked me up. So that's a really fun way to use ChatGPT, right? By the way, is like, because I was kind of just like, give me the facts. Like, well, tell me about Minnesota. And then I just was like throwing in like, now pretend she's a person. Like, what would that be like? But my favorite line was about um you brought a water gun to a snowball fight. Cracks me up. Anyway, let me just say a couple more things about what's happening, because I want you to know, like, I want you to have some positive notes too, because I wanted to make sure you understood the breadth of what is being protested. Like, the protest is not just like ICE is physically here. The protest is for what they're doing here. They are kidnapping people. I mean, not so much anymore, but it was not uncommon to over the weekend and stuff, to see cars like abandoned on the road, like with their doors open, sometimes still running, because these agents, it's completely racial profiling. It's not like they have a list of like names and addresses and they're like, oh, let's go pick up this person, this is my to-do list. No, it's totally random. They just see someone that looks like they might be a non-citizen, and they will run them off the road, whip them out of their car, and put them in a cage in the back of their truck. And so the car sits there, sometimes still running, doors open. And so all these cars have been impounded. And so now, like, it's been such a problem, and no one's picking them up because they're the ones that are in cages or shipped off to another state. I don't know. So now Minneapolis is saying total amnesty for these cars that were and some of them crashed too, where because the ICE agents, they'll run stop signs. That doesn't matter. Someone was giving a firsthand account of, like, she was just driving like in her neighborhood, and she witnessed these big trucks they have, and they have these convoys. They went barreling through a stop sign, hit a car, totaled a car. Um, and instead of like calling 911 and making sure the person was okay and saying like, oops, we ran a stop sign. What they did, she saw this with her own eyes. This is a firsthand account. Um, like they pulled over, agents popped out, went over, like, luckily the driver was a person of color. I'm actually hearing in my head that maybe not, because it wouldn't have mattered. I guess that detail maybe is unknown. Whatever color he was, they grabbed him and put him in the cage in the back of their truck, because it was way easier to just grab the guy than to say, "Oops, we ran the stop sign and totally nailed this car." So that's what we're living in. Like, that's the vibe. That's why the protests are happening. They are disappearing our neighbors. I mean, there was another one that came out. Like, they ripped this guy out of his house in his underwear. He was in his underwear, and they let him grab a blanket. So, like, they're carting him out of the house in his underwear and a blanket, and he was a citizen, or at least here legally. I mean, they didn't keep him. This is it. This is the thing that they're doing. Now, let me move on to the happy part, which is what the Minnesotans are doing, which is, yeah, they're protesting, and yeah, they're yelling. In fact, a lot of it, they're not even yelling all that much anymore, because most of them have lost all their voices, at least the ones that are like the regulars. Um, that's not they know that that's not making a difference. They're not gonna shame any of these agents into going home, but they're doing a lot of things that are working. They have these, like I was saying, these the whole neighborhood um, networks where people are just standing. They're in their cars until they see a need, and then they see a need, and then they come out of their cars, and they're just standing. Again, many of them not yelling, many of them not doing anything but having their phones out, and that's just what that's called. Legal observers. They're just legally observing. But the problem is that makes the agents so angry, because they know they can't do anything, and so now it's like this game of the agent trying to provoke the Minnesotans into doing something illegal so that they have reason to whatever. And that's not working very well, because Minnesotans are super organized, and they already have been given really good training about these are the things that can be interpreted as an illegal activity, even though they're not supposed to be, blah, 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 blah. Don't give them any ammo is the kind of gist of it. All right. So again, in case you just joined me kind of late, the topic of the discussion today is Minnesota, me being in Minnesota. I am going to call in my pantheon and do some of the normal stuff too. But since I'm not the type of person that's going to the rallies and things, this is what I can do. I actually have a platform, and I can share with you what's real, about what you might not be seeing on the news. Just listening for what kind of good news stuff. This is a Pantheon comment. From their perspective, Minneapolis is winning. uh, Even if more troops come in, we're still always going to outnumber them, because the more, the more the worse they get, the more committed Minnesota becomes, and the more people who have never protested before or stood up for their neighbors, um, the other the so it's not going to end well. There's no end that makes the federal government look good. That's how they're saying this. Like, there's no. All right, now they're telling me to pull out the rods because this feels like a strong statement. Yes. Okay. I want to make sure I've heard it right. And then now I'm just confirming who I'm. Okay. This is the entire council of 9. So if you're new to me, well, let me just say a couple things. First of all, these are dowsing rods. I forgot. Like, oh, you might be brand new to me. These are copper dowsing rods, and rods themselves are not magic. They're just 100% copper. That is important. They're made of 2 pieces. One's an L-shaped rod, and the second piece is a hollow tube that L shape is going into. So it makes a handle that spins. These are very hard to control if you don't have a pantheon at your disposal. This is how they normally would move. If I wanted to fake it and show you like an X, um, I could, oh, I could kind of hold it for a second, but you'd notice me struggling. The reason that they can be used for divination, the physics that's happening, is that I connect to a higher being. I have a whole pantheon that I have spent thousands of hours building a relationship with, and so I can call in who I wish to speak with, or I can call in the group, like the Council of 9, and then I can say, hey, I have a question about this topic. Which of the 9 of you would like to come forward? And then one or more of them will come forward, and then they are working with my body's chemistry, specifically the plasma within my body. So I can ask a yes no question, and then they are sending a signal to my body, this plasma in my body, that then generates either a positive charge or a negative charge, and that then is what's reflected by the 100% copper rods. So the magic is in the connection. The rods just show that evidence of the physics. And so the last little intro note there is that I showed you what it looks like when there's no energy running through them. Now let me show you what it looks like when there is. So I'm asking them to hold the rods in neutral. Sometimes they like to line up for the camera a little bit. All right, that's good. Now, will you please show us your yes? Now, and if you're learning this on the speed of what's happening now is going to be pretty typical for you. It would typically slowly cross in front to a yes. So that's what a yes looks like. Now, for me, it moves a lot faster, and they often go all the way around to my neck. It's just easier for them, and then they can. I have sort of almost like I don't know, shorthand way to get yeses and nos from them after all this practice. But if you're new to this, then it's going to look a little more traditional, which again, if we start at neutral and then I ask for a no, that looks like that outward for a no. All right. Now, as I mentioned, I have a large pantheon at my disposal that I have cultivated relationships with. Some of them are aliens, some of them are dragons, angels, pantheon gods, and then all the way up to source or God, highest power. I use the word source, so do the aliens. So if you are new to divination, I want you to know anyone can learn this. This is not some kind of purely gift that you have to be born with, or pray for or something. This is a learnable skill. It does take practice. Again, the reason that it looks easy for me is because of my amount of practice. So just know that you can learn to do this. One of the most important things about this that I'm going to teach you right now is it is critical to call in who you want to connect with. It's not about saying like, hello, anybody out there? Show me a yes if you can hear me. Don't do that. You probably will get a yes, but don't do that. That is extremely poor hygiene when it comes to divination. You want to be in the driver's seat. You want to ask for a specific deity. And a good place to start is your higher self. Everybody's got a higher self. So ask for that. That's where I started. I started by asking to connect with my higher self, and my the way I defined higher self, because you might define it differently, and that's you can call to the version of your higher self that you define. But my definition was the version of me that has lived all of my past lives. That's who I wanted to connect with. I just thought that would be such a wise version of me to be able to like tap into and like ask yes, no questions. And so it worked. All right. That being said, I'm now going to connect via dowsing rods to the entire Council of Nine to bring us back to where they were headed with me, which was what, their perspective. Because I shared a little bit about, what the pulse of the streets is. And now we're going to hear from them of what seems likely from their perspective. This is future facing, and it is important to remember that they don't predict the future. They are not going to tell us what will happen. They will tell us what is likely to happen. They may or may not tell us like a time frame that it might likely happen in. They will talk about likelihood. They will not talk about promises or estimates. Even they sometimes give in the past they gave me a lot of estimates about motherships, and then I'm like, okay, no more no more estimates. So now that being said, okay, confirming we're with the whole council of nine, and if you don't know what that means, just you'll catch up. That's the leadership team of the whole galactic federation slash cosmos. Okay, from their cosmic perspective, they see that. Oh yeah, this I forgot. There was a very specific download that I got that I'm like, I'm gonna pick up the rods for that. So what I heard, and those of you in my membership have heard me talk about timelines a lot. As much as I hate talking about timeline, I'm always like, oh, don't tell me it's a timeline thing. But I'm still drinking tea, by the way. I'm my cough is still palpable, but a lot better. Anyway, timelines. So, for a long time, I'm like, I'm not saying the word timelines. I hate that. I'm not gonna I was a little like stubborn, and now I'm like, fine, I will talk about timelines. And now I'm a little bit more like, I'm curious about timelines on this particular issue. And so I was curious about timelines on this particular issue because timelines, the way as they've explained it, is like multiple, like choose your own adventure. Um, and we have a gotta use my hands for this. We have a collective timeline and we have individual timelines. So there's sort of like the gravity. Like if you're alive on the planet today, you've got like you're magnetized to our collective timeline, surfing. Um, and they do show it to me like surfing. Um, Except they want to make a distinction that you can always well, actually, let me just check something. Yeah, okay. And by the way, if you just noticed, I was thinking in my head and I was getting yeses, yes, 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 and then at the end I got a no. That's always on purpose. When I'm like trying to confirm something, I like to ask questions multiple ways. Like I'll ask one question and then I'll ask the opposite question. So if I got a yes to the first question, then if I ask the opposite question, I should get a no. Like that's the logic. But if I don't, then I'm like, "Ooh, wait, what? Why would I get both yeses or both nos?" So that's just if you're learning divination with me, just practice that. And oh, they're saying illustrate what I just said. Okay. So what I did, and this is all happening like speed round in my head, and I'm what you can't see, especially if they're like this. What you can't see is I think it's usually my left. Yeah, it's usually my left hand, and it's like I'll ask a question, and sometimes I'll get like it'll just like lift off my neck, like a millimeter, and you can't see it, but I can feel it. I can feel I can feel the absence of the copper. And so I know like, ooh, that's a no. And then sometimes what's happening is I'm asking a bunch of questions in a row and they're all yeses. Like, and I can feel like, yep, 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 yep. And then every once in a while, I'll get to a question where the answer isn't just like, yep. The answer is hell yeah. And so that's this little pulse that like goes like bonk. It almost like bonks me and it like with force. And that's like a yes. And so these are just super subtle little things that you are not going to see on camera, but I'm feeling for. So what I was just to recreate what just happened, I asked, okay, well, like confirming, are there multiple timelines of Minnesota like happening right now? Yes. And I just got a little pulse. Yes. And then I said, yeah, I guess what that reminded me. What I was doing is like, okay, I'm seeing different timelines of like, mm, like what in one timeline the agents are all sent home tomorrow. The other end of the spectrum, the agents are here for, I don't know, what, a year, something, a year. And both of those feel equally unlikely. And they're giving like they're like, yep, yep. That was sort of like one of those, yep, yep, like, yep, unlikely that it would be a year or tomorrow. And then I said, is I said, it feels like most timelines, it feels like most timelines, whenever and however this all ends, um, Minnesota is going to appear as the winner. And I got a hell yes, I got a tap. Um, and then I said, are there any timelines where the federal government appears like the winner, quote unquote? And then it started moving away to no. And I'm like, now, and if you were noticed, I used the term, "Are there any timelines?" And that was intentionally like an extreme. And they're like, "No." And so that's when I was like, "Let me pick up the rods," because I want to say more clearly with intention, starting from neutral, from the perspective of timelines, reflecting all kind like a huge perspective of continuum of they could go home tomorrow or they could go home in a year. And but they're saying again to confirm every single timeline that they have visibility into right now has the federal government leaving with their tail between their legs is the phrase that's coming in. And now they're showing you kind of a slow yes. Every single timeline that's available right now has it's like Minnesota wins because the federal government brought water guns to a snowball fight. Ugh. I mean, I don't mean to like laugh about guns because that they are using their guns to directly intimidate. They think nothing of shoving a loaded gun directly in someone's face. And again, these are not like people of color. They're not doing this to the people who they think are actual immigrants. They are doing this to the people who are standing up for their neighbors. They are doing this to the people who aren't just saying, "Oh yeah, go for it. Just go ahead and take our neighbors. Go ahead and take our Minnesotans that, have a funny last name or the wrong color skin. Yeah, we're cool with that." No, we're not cool with that. Okay, on that note, I'm gonna go to your comments now, and I apologize. We're 45 minutes in, and I've barely acknowledged you. Thank you for hanging in there with me, both again, those of you who are members as well as those of you who are new to me. If you are new, I'd love to hear from you. You have to be a subscriber to make a comment. You just have to click the button. All right. I think I said hi to a lot of you, so I won't worry too much about saying hi other than thank you for those of you finding me from other countries. I always get so tickled by like hi to you in Spain and Brazil and London. Um, Okay, let's see if you have any questions about Minnesota, and to your questions that are non-Minnesota related. Um, uh, yeah, Mary is reminding me of something that came through in one of the recent, conversations. She's reminding me that they explained, about because Mary's question is about the mentality of the people of these agents, the people who have taken these jobs and are doing this because, uh, they don't look human, and they certainly don't behave human. They don't behave the way that a human would behave in with another human. So who are these people that take these jobs? And, a lot of them, it's absolutely for the money. I'm hearing something that I wanna just confirm. Yeah. Okay, they're saying this is a sometimes, this is a Prometheus thing. He's a little, uh, what's the word? Like, sarcastic sometimes or sorta like curmudgeon, like a lovable curmudgeon. Um, but he's also saying, like, he's not kidding. He's kinda like, "You can this might sound funny, but I'm not kidding. This wasn't meant to be funny, and it's not." He's saying that the men who have signed on with ICE, um, are the same men who might have otherwise been like looking for paid gigs as professional agitators, paid paid counter protesters. And when he said that, I'm just like, "Psh." And he's like, no, seriously. And then he said yes, and he also said something else, but then he said, don't. He said something else that I'm like, oh, that feels real controversial. And I'm like, you want me to say so that, and he's like, yeah, it's true though. And I'm like, you want me to say that on this live? And then he's like, nope, don't say that. No, no need to say that. I'm like, yeah, good call. No offense to those of you who are part of the community, but this is a reminder that normally we're in our closed community, but today we're not. And there's just some things that you just got to be part of Adult Swim to get that level of clearance. Um, I feel like there. Okay, so I was just jumping back to that. Okay, okay, all right, we're good on the. Oh, hang on, one more comment about who takes these jobs. So it's people who need the money, but more importantly, it is men, white men, who have such a lack of belonging in their real world. They're isolated, they're single, they believe that the reason that they're single is because of the women as opposed to that there's something they could work on for themselves. Um yeah, Prometheus is lobbing in the word incel. So if you know what that means, that's the persona. Um, oh gosh, it reminds me of something else. I did go. I read you the short version of what my chat GPT said, like how that they would describe Minnesota. And I had to go a little bit deeper just because I that was so fun. I'm like, no, give me a longer version. And in the longer version, where was it? Oh yeah. um, uh, she said, uh, Minnesota doesn't melt under pressure. We freeze, assess, plan, coordinate, and then we keep going politely until the problem resolves itself. Anyway, welcome to Minnesota. Please drive carefully and maybe bring mittens next time. Excuse me. Still got that cough. Because yeah, maybe bring mittens next time. These people, and this also includes the embarrassingly meager counter protest that happened over the weekend. But the federal government is not outfitting their troops appropriately for the frigid cold. Like they don't, I don't know, some of them don't have gloves. They're in their like they're all, like tactical gear. But you think that stuff is made with like down filling? No. No, that do you think that stuff has like uh temperature, regulation? Nope. Not most of it anyway. I'm sure the government has access to this stuff, but they're not. That's not what they're giving these guys. These guys are like bottom of the barrel, both in terms of training, experience, and kit. um. All right, Prometheus was going to say something else. Oh, he's just saying there's something in the comments. All right. I see a question about a solar flare. Let me see if we can come back to that before I say goodbye. Um, oh yeah. So just to recap Mary's question, that's kind of what got me off on that tangent. I would never apologize for or play devil's advocate for these people who have taken these jobs and are doing what they're doing. They have removed themselves. They have so compartmentalized that they are not human. But they got there from a deep wound of loneliness and not feeling belonging. So they saw this as an opportunity to physically, like in person, join up with like-minded people. And they're not comfortable. They're not comfortable. They're very, very cold. They're not sleeping well. If they had any kind of family, maybe parents, siblings, any support system, they're physically removed from them. They're not like going out. I mean, they can't even go to a coffee shop without disrupting everything. So there's only certain coffee shops they can go to, and the coffee shops don't want them don't want to be picked because if ICE agents go to your coffee shop, no one else is going there. So anyway. Right. Let me just try to zip through and see if there's any other comments specifically about Minnesota. And oh, here's an interesting question. I don't know if they want to get this specific, but the question is there a connection? Let's see. I'm just calling in Prometheus for this. Is there a connection between people being taken and someone trying to hit a quota for brain chips? Is the question. Okay, that got a no, but I could tell that there might have been a different answer right until the end. So let me just say, let me ask that differently. Is there a connection between people being taken and someone trying to hit a quota period? Question mark. Yes. Yes. It feels like ICE was given a number. Find this many derogatory term. I won't repeat it, but Prometheus told me the word that they use. And so they're trying to hit a quota. And that's why they have all these people in cages, knowing full well that some percentage of them are Minnesota residents. Some percentage of them are almost Minnesota citizens, U.S. citizens. They're just like at the tail end of a process, and absolutely shouldn't be included in any kind of question. And they're stuck. Oh, and the other thing that's contributing to all of this as a problem is that in addition to being incels and some of these other sort of stereotypical attributes, they don't know how to do anything except imagine they are in a video game. That is why Renee Good died, is because the shooter, that's all he knew how to do was shoot at what he perceived was the opposite team, the enemy. They're not following your rules by your voice. Well, just shoot them. And so that's the mentality. That's this video game mentality, this first person shooter game mentality. And they don't know what else to do. And there are more every day. There's new law, like judges are supporting, like it was a couple days ago now, but There had to be a judge that to say, don't use chemical agents on peaceful protesters. Don't, like, in other words, a judge had to say, follow the laws that are already on the books. And then it was it Christy Nome that was just like, this is silly. We're already not doing those things. And then she was like, I didn't see it or whatever, but then she was like shown like eh, footage, this over and over. Look at this, look at this, look at this that they're doing. They are breaking the laws. And she was like, she had to be like, oh, okay, sorry. But point is that what the Minnesota lawmakers and petitioners and all of the grassroots effort, it's working, and there's more and more controls being, and there's national press. There's every day more and more people are coming into Minnesota to observe and to see what's really happening. So the agents cannot do what they want to do. They can't just play their video game anymore, but they don't know what else to do. There's nothing else to do. They're stuck. All right. Anyway, and there is a quota. Bottom line is there a quota. Oh yeah, Mary's saying, I love that people are fighting ice with ice. Yeah. The winter is totally on our side. It was so cold over the weekend, still cold. And all of us Minnesotans were like, yes, yes, because we're prepared for this. This happens every year. But these guys from, the Proud Boys from Texas with no mittens, not doing so good. Oh yeah, Laura in Circle Pines. She's in a town of 5,000 and you see them driving around. And I mean, I'm sure they're finding a lot of support there too. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about Circle Pines specifically, Laura, but the farther away you get from the metro area, the more likely you are to find Trump country. In fact, a lot of us refer to that as like Trump country. Nancy's asking a beautiful question. In our meditations, are there words we can say to help people in Minnesota? Okay. I love this question. Because the answer is yes, of course. And that would be lovely. But that feels like a lesson that I'll take us away from Minnesota. Maybe that's enough. We're almost at the top of the hour anyway. And so let me give you a little taste test of like the normal stuff that you might hear from me in a live. Because this was, again, very special, just talking about Minnesota and I'm here and what's happening. Normally, I talk about spiritual growth related topics, specifically the channeled information that I've been given over my entire journey falls under the umbrella that they call inner divinity. It's not a religion. It's not a philosophy. It's a practice. It can be added to any religion or atheist or whatever, but it's what has totally made the you've heard me talk a lot about New Earth, and I was recently in my personal practice that I do every single day. And I was just having a moment of gratitude, and I was just thanking my pantheon for how I get to spend my days. I mean, sure, being in Minneapolis, for example, it's very easy to see all the things that I wish were different about my outer world. But I was in this moment of so much gratitude for my inner world, like how I get to spend my time in a day, talking to you, for example, having one-on-one sessions with clients, preparing for my in-person retreat that's coming up very soon. I love how I get to spend my time. And I was in this moment of gratitude of that. And my pantheon told me, like, the response to that I got was, you're in New Earth. Like, this is a version of New Earth. Of course, we're not literally yet in the New Earth that's on our back to that sort of idea of a shared timeline. We have a collective timeline. So our collective human timeline is not yet flipped over to what's considered New Earth. But some of us, some percentage of us have reached a version of New Earth on our individual timelines. And they're saying, I'm one of them now. And the definition of that is what I just said. I love every, if I wanted to get real picky, I could say less than 100%, but like at least like 95%. Let's say 95% of how I spend my time every single day, I love. And that is an attribute of what we all can look forward to in New Earth. When we are all the way, when we have ascended collectively to New Earth, what you can expect is you will be in a place or on your way to a place where you will say that too, where the work you do for money, the work you do as a volunteer, the hobbies you have, the lessons you sign up for, the parties you attend, the special places you get to go to, your entire life in total is going to be 95% what you love, and you're going to have so much gratitude for that. And they're even telling me as kind of a closing note, because we're all getting ready to say goodbye. They're saying that at least some of you, if not all of you, seeing this right now, will have a moment in your future, just like I had in my practice, where I was like, I am feeling overwhelmed with gratitude of at least 95% of every single day brings me so much joy. You will have that moment and you will remember this conversation. You will remember that once upon a time, maybe a week ago or a month ago or 10 years ago, I don't know, this memory will come back to you and you will remember the time you were on YouTube and the alien lady was doing something about Minneapolis and then New Earth and said, you will reach a point where 95% of every single day brings you joy. And that is one of the definitions of New Earth. That being said, I know I have a whole lot of questions that I didn't even get to see. I didn't even skim them, but we are at the top of the hour, and I knew that this would focus on Minneapolis, and I just want to give this to you as a warm invitation to join my membership. I go live on YouTube 3 times a week, usually for 90 minutes. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. I really admire those of you who watch every minute, whether you join me in real time or catch the replay. But you get a lot for your membership, and you do have to become a member to get access to those lives. There's 2 options that get you into a membership level where you'll get the lives. You'll read about them in the membership. So I don't mean this to be a commercial. I mostly meant this to be a public service announcement of Minnesota Energy today. So thank you again for your attention. Thank you to members. Thank you to my Pantheon in total, especially the Council of 9, who was all with me today. Prometheus kind of took the mic quite a bit, but they all are supporting us in Minnesota. Ooh, let's going to end with that. The beautiful question of what can you do? Can you bring something into meditation? Yes. Send someone yesterday had the idea of expanding the pyramid of white light out to include, even as far as the globe. That's a beautiful thing. And what they want to end with is, and this is Prometheus being a little bit like sassy, curmudgeon, sarcastic with love, is he's saying, Minnesota does not need prayers, does not need thoughts and prayers. Minnesota's doing a great job. What he would suggest you do is when you're sending kind of laser, rockets of thoughts to Minnesota, you're just saying keep doing what you're doing. Keep being strong. Keep being everything that Minnesota has always been, which is to say, we put our heart. I'm sorry. This is something else that kind of came through as a download when I was thinking through this today. My Pantheon said, Minnesota puts her body, the citizens put our bodies where our hearts want to be. I mean, again, we were the first volunteers to fight for human rights in the Civil War. We're the first to be this isn't right. We're going to do this with our physical bodies, which was not the case of the counter protesters over the weekend. If you haven't seen some of that, you might be entertained by that. Okay. On that note, this is our goodbye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will see you members again on Thursday at noon Eastern, and then Saturday at 11 Eastern. See you then. Bye-bye, everybody.